I'm Sauron.
I didn't want to ask.
Sorry for the spoiler, but guys, yeah. Yeah, I think the thing I love about Bronwyn and playing her is that she's driven and motivated by love for her son, love for Arondir, and the love of her people. And so she has kind of been that string, that through line of hope for that storyline. And I think you find her in a place of default leadership. At the end of 7, she didn't really choose to be in that position, but she's become this sort of default leader or community organizer of kinds. And so, yeah, it's really I'm excited to see where that might go.
When I first found out about this aspect of Midiel's arc, I haven't really been able to talk a lot about this, but I actually started my journey there. My first day of filming is, in fact, the scene in episode 7 where Galadriel kneels before me and we sort of have this very intensive moment. And I remember very much wanting to make sure that Midiel did not seem diminished, that this was something that, in a way, she essentially saw was going to happen. She wasn't able to understand it at the time, but because she, was trying to make sense of the visions that she was seeing in the Palantir, there is that sort of acceptance and understanding that she still needs to forge ahead. But just from an acting perspective, it was certainly daunting, but I had a lot of support and people around me, and as you mentioned, just that sense of strength. I wanted to really honor that. I didn't want it to feel weak or be a weakness. And I'm really excited to see sort of where her journey continues from here.
Yes, there is. I think it's because when you have a character like him who is mentioned in passing by Tolkien, he's key in what he does. However, his character is not fleshed out. The little hints that Tolkien does give us, for example, this constant inner battle with his own. He wants to outdo the achievements of Feanor, his grandfather. And I kind of thought, that would be a nice character thing. But then he actually says, I read a book called The Nature of Middle-earth, and Tolkien says Celebrimbor is battling with this secret desire to outdo his grandfather, which makes a lot of sense to me. And that's the element that I'm looking forward to. That's what drives him. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out. We had a really dark one today. It was that was sort of wow, somebody's gone there. But then not so many that make me laugh, because it seems like the ones that I've heard about or read have been so well thought through. Like, people are really invested in. The people coming up with theories are really invested in the character and seeing resonances of beings that they either want the stranger to become or that they think that he might. And so for me, it's been really exciting and enjoyable to watch that progress from sort of day one, as soon as the first sort of images were released of the stranger, and then obviously when we started to perform the episodes and they came out. I just love that people build, every time an episode comes out, people add to their sort of thesis. The documentation gets greater, and that either helps or hinders their argument. And it's really quite inspirational, I find, to watch how people are responding to that character. And we were discussing this a bit today, that I think there is an equality with this, partly because it's Tolkien, but partly also because of the way that it's been around for a long time. The old source material has been around for a long time. There's an ownership in the audience of all of these characters, and we're a place like Comic-Con, we get to experience how the audience interacts with their characters. It becomes much more than our show that we're bringing to, but it's more like a meeting of minds, which is great.
I was going to say we're fans as well. I mean, it's a really great opportunity to work on something that you also would watch and you are a fan of. And I was also going to mention that, like, I don't know who the stranger is, and I'm excited to find out. I'm going to be watching the series finale with the the audience out there, and and I will hopefully learn some things. I don't know what I'm going to learn.
Yeah, we're basically we've got really good cosplay costumes. We're like fans, and but we have a whole department that helps us with our wardrobe.
That's a very
Professional
good analogy.
cosplayers.
We take cosplay very seriously.
There's a lot of talk with regards to the Numenorian people about the pride they feel. And I think that informs everybody on the island in different ways. My father, Farazan, is obsessed with his legacy. And I think that has to do with his age. Whereas Kemen is young, he's kind of just enjoying living at the peak of this society. I think in a lot of ways he's been coasting until we've met him at this point. He's been born into a pretty sweet position. And he hasn't had to question it or challenge it. There's been no need. He's had everything he's ever wanted. As the story begins, things start moving beneath his feet. I think what he's facing is what he's prepared to do to keep things the way he wants them. And I think with his father, who's never really given him any respect, what might earn some of that finally? What could he do to prove his worth? And that causes them to make some, questionable decisions.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm just sitting here thinking about how much family has impacted. So, I mean, literally everyone here has just talked about something to do with family and legacies and all sorts of stuff. And yes, similarly with the Halfwoods. And the dark side, it is quite interesting because playing Marigold, I had just taken all that on board as part of Marigold's life. She really wants that tradition to continue. She really wants their way of life to continue. But actually, now that the show is out in the world and reading what people have said about the Halfwoods, and I've been like, oh yeah, it is quite brutal. I was just taking it because it's her life, But they are survivors, and so they've developed a way of life in order to survive. And now that's being really shaken up, and I think that makes for dramatic tension, and that makes it really interesting. But I also find it really fascinating the way JD and Patrick have written that backstory to the hobbits, that out of that darkness and that survival instinct and their staying away from the rest of the world because they're at the bottom of the food chain, we eventually kind of get to where they are in the Shire, way down the track. And I think that that's quite a fascinating thing to be part of, and I'll be really interested to see where that goes.
I'm not asking for spoilers.
I'm Sauron.
I didn't want to ask.
Sorry for the spoiler, but guys, yeah.
I think we would certainly get along. I
think so.
I think we'd hit it off, actually, especially if we were in private. We'll talk to JD and Patrick. That scene scene needs to exist.
I also think there would be a recognition of being in similar positions, and we talked about this earlier about just the burden of what you kind of internally are navigating that you cannot necessarily discuss with so many people, and you sort of are in that rarefied position of really understanding just the burden of being a leader.
And the politics that they play comes from a place of love and affection and experience and responsibility, as opposed to potentially, particularly in Numenor, some other characters that the machinations of politics are based in the individual. Mm-hmm. I definitely think we're both invested in the health and well-being of our peoples and the peoples and races of Middle-earth. Yeah, the eight's going to blow people away. I mean, yeah. Just watch it. You'll be happy.
Again, to protect a lot of the storylines, even as a cast, there are sequences and things that we have not seen, we have not read. So when we watch the finale, shifting into fan mode, I'm like, okay, I have questions. There are things I'm curious about. Where does this get left off? And what essentially are the ending points for this first season that would, potentially set us up for season 2?
But I think the showrunners have done a great job of pacing the series. There's a lot of information that's come. We've got to know characters over these early sort of episodes, and then with 6, when 6 came out, I was blown away by the sort of breathtaking, sort of unbelievably intense atmosphere in 6. And I feel like they will just ramp that. They will just ramp it up and up. And whatever you saw in 6, I feel like it's going to be spine tingling and chilling and all the way all the way through to the end now. Yeah.
And the show as a whole is just getting warmed up. Yeah. Really, I mean, it even what we know as we're already starting the second season, you just kind of go, wow, this is, I would watch this.